It has been a while since I have done a video like this, and this video is basically just going to be a Q&A video, simply because I've been getting questions to make certain videos and go over specific topics, but instead of me just making individual videos, I just wanted to throw it all into one video, so I figured why not have a Q&A. So I got a couple questions here on my phone, so if you see me looking down on my phone, you know why. All right, so let's just jump right into it. Question number one is going to be, can you better explain Cine EI and how to expose for it? I don't know if I talked about Cine EI on this channel already, but if I haven't, Cine EI basically is a tool that comes with the Sony FX6. Now, when you're shooting in Cine EI, you're only given two dual base ISOs, 800 and 12,800. So essentially with Cine EI, whenever you're exposing, you're only able to expose in those two dual base ISOs. So with Cine EI, when you go to change the exposure, you're only affecting the image on your monitor. You're not affecting the image internal that is being recorded. So if you don't know, with Sony cameras, Sony wants you to overexpose by 1 or 2 stops. And when you do that, when you overexpose, the image on your monitor can look a little wonky. It can look a little washed out. It can just not look good. So with Cine EI, it allows you to change the EI ISO to say maybe 400 or 600, just so your eyes can better see on the monitor what the image is probably going to look like once you bring down the highlights or raise up the shadows. But again, it's not going to affect the actual image. People, I don't know why, but they really overcomplicate Cine EI. It's really not that complicated. You just have to basically understand you only have two ISOs, and no matter what you try to change it to, you're not going to affect the image. You're just going to affect essentially what you see on the monitor. So that's pretty much everything you need to know about Cine EI for the basics, just to dumb it down for beginners. So essentially just overexpose by 1 or 2 stops. If you use false colors like I do, use false colors. Make sure your skin tones are in the green. If you don't know what false colors is, it has an IRE scale of different colors. What you really need to know is green means good. If your skin tones are in the green, you're good. If they're in the higher, like red, orange, that means your highlights are clipping. And if they're in the low, like purplish, gray, or blue, dark blue, that means you're underexposed and you lost all your information in the shadows. So with false colors, just make sure you don't go red or orange. Make sure you don't go purple or blue. Make sure your skin tones are green. Learn that, understand it. You'll better have an understanding of Cine EI. Again, it's not complicated. That's just a quick explanation. I hope that answered your question. Question number two is going to be, how do you stay busy when freelance is going slow? That's a good question, because this month so far, I only had one job, but one job was able to pay all my bills for this month. Thank God. But how do I stay busy is simply just by doing spec ad. Now, I'm in the process of creating a new highlight reel, and I want to create a cinematography reel. I have my basic highlight reel, which is what I use for all my event work, corporate work. I pitch that off to clients who want to hire me for event and corporate work, since that's primarily what I do. But I do and have been wanting to create a cinematography reel. So in my downtime, I like to create spec ads, short films, and just think of different frame ideas to use for my cinematography reel, because essentially I do want to get into more of the commercial work. And in order for me to be able to get into that, I need to prove that I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing. I know how to use a camera, and I need a cinematography reel. And in order for me to get a cinematography reel, I can't just sit around and wait for it. I have to go out there and execute it. So I just think of short films, think of different ideas, and just try to add to my cinematography reel. So essentially, as of right now, I have 2 reels. I have one for, again, my events and corporate work, interviews, stuff like that. And then I'm in the process of creating a cinematography highlight reel. Now, for those of you wondering, why don't I just use my highlight reel that I already have and show it to cinematographers? It's because that highlight reel showcases basically just interviews and event work. A cinematographer who does commercial work, they probably can care less about an interview. So it's just not the right thing for me to show them. And that's not something that I want to show them. I want to show them that I can be a great DP and that I know what to do in certain situations and stuff along that. I want to show them my skills, not just an interview. So yeah, that's what I do in my, I guess, slow time. Just create projects, spec ads. I love it. It's fun. It gives me full creative freedom. So question number 3 is going to be, how do you write your contracts for clients to sign? Now, me, whenever I'm freelancing, typically the client who hires me, they send me over the contract. So I don't really have to deal with that. Thank God, I don't want to deal with that. But in cases where I do have to write my own contract and send it out to them, I pretty much just add the basics of what it is I'm filming, the location, how long it's going to be, the budget that we agreed upon, Anything along that nature that's going to save me in the long term, I pretty much just add into my contract. Now, what I use to send out those invoices, I go to a website called Invoice Home. Now, I'm sure that there's better websites out there that allow you to create invoices, but it's just what I do only because, again, I don't really write contracts out like that. My client sends them to me and just makes my life easier. But Invoice Home, that's a website that I use. If I have an invoice somewhere in my history box, I'm just going to throw it on the screen just to give you kind of an idea of how I would type it out and what I do type out and what my client sees. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. I don't even know what question number this is. I'm just reading them off on my phone. Next question though is going to be, I have an upcoming shoot that will be outside. What gear do you recommend I use for lighting? Now, this is a good question because when it comes to lighting outside, me personally, I recommend that you use grids, whether it be a 6x6 grid, a 4x4 grid. I don't really recommend that you use lights unless you don't have grids. Like me, I only ever use grids when I'm on projects where there's going to be more than just one person. I'm going to have a gaffer, I'm going to have a helper, because for me to carry a grid in my car, I can barely fit my gear in my car as it is. So for me to buy a 6x6 grid, it wouldn't fit in my car. Not only that, it's just too much for me to work with by myself. You essentially need ideally two people to move it around, and for me to be able to do all that by myself would just take way too much time. Unless I get a smaller one, like a 4x4, then I can maybe make that work. But honestly, for me, whenever I'm on shoots, if I don't have somebody, again, I just use like an Aperture 600D. I'll go and rent one out because I don't have one. I don't really recommend anything under a 600D because I made an entire video where I did film outside with an Aperture 300D and it just wasn't bright enough. Use the sun as your key light. If you need some negative fill, go ahead and get some negative fill and set that up as well, just to add more shadows to one's face, whatever you're trying to film. I would stick that route. You don't really necessarily need lights outside, again, unless you don't have a grip van to be able to carry 6x6 or 4x4s. But depending on what the shoot is and depending on what the requirements are, I recommend that you just bounce light everywhere and just use diffusion. It's going to be so much easier, especially if you have a team, and it's going to save the hassle of trying to carry around a bunch of VMAX batteries to power the aperture lights, because on VMAX batteries, they take up a lot of power, and essentially you're probably only going to get like 30 minutes if you're at full blast, if that. So yeah, I recommend grids. Again, I use them whenever I have a crew with me. If I don't, I'm just gonna bring an aperture just to save my time and save me struggling carrying all this stuff in my small car. Next question is going to be, I want to get into more event work. Do you have any tips on how you got into it? So for me, I kind of want to say I got blessed into it because I didn't really have to do too much when I first started getting into event work, only because I got my first event job through a client who I previously worked for and I met on social media. And that client knew someone who did a lot of events and was looking for a videographer. And essentially, they just onboarded me and connected me with that person. And that's how I got my first ever event job. And ever since then, I just put it on my portfolio and it spread it from there. And now I get a lot of event work. And essentially, I'm happy that it went that way for me. But if you're starting out, I guess the most cliche answer they say is just get out there and network, because that's what works for me. And that's the only way that I got it, is going out there and just meeting people. So another thing that you could do, which I did a couple times and it helped me out get more exposure, was find local events that are going on in your area. And if you need to pay for these events to get in, just pay for a ticket and bring your camera. 9 times out of 10, these events that you apply for, they're going to have some type of media going on. So get you a media pass. If you have to pay for a media pass, go out there, just film a bunch of stuff and create a highlight reel out of it. I've done that before, and that also helped me and boosted my event work as well. Whether it be a local event, whether it be a paid event, even if it's like a little farmer's market in the area. Like in my side of town, every Saturday, there's a farmer's market from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Go out to that farmer's market or whatever it is in your side of town and just go film something for free and just use it for your highlight reel. Essentially, you can send that off to clients and they can see that you have experience. Clients just want to see that you're able to do the work that they're asking you to do. So if you can do that and they can see that you do a good enough job, you can get your foot in the door of event work. It's not too difficult. So I hope that answered your question. Okay. Another question is going to be, which lens do you recommend for my first cinema glass, Diesel film or Nisi? So it's pretty crazy how you said that, because those are two pieces of glass that I've been considering and eyeballing for a while now. And I almost pulled the trigger on the Diesel films, but after looking at the new Nisi Athenas and just seeing how clinically sharp and crispy they are, I think I'm gonna lean more towards that direction. Again, I haven't used any of these lenses, so I can't really give you a direct answer. Not until I get my hands on them. I reached out to Dizo and they essentially just gave me a discount. They didn't want to send me a free lens. And I reached out to Nisi. And with Nisi, they were actually going to send me a pair, but they said that they are so flooded right now with everyone wanting to try them out that they offered me a special discount to where if I go rent them out, the amount of money that I paid for a rental, they will take it off if I go and purchase the lens. So if I rented the cinema set out for like $300 and I decided, yo, I really like this, I want to go purchase it, they gave me a code to where they're gonna take off the $300 that I spent on the rental on my purchase. So I thought that was pretty cool. If we're gonna spend time to talk about this really quick, I do want to talk about it. The Dizos, they look fantastic. They have that more of that modern slash vintage feel, which I do like, and I love how it has character, but I'm also thinking about the work that I do. Like those would be a great lens if I was doing commercial projects or spec ads and stuff along that where I'm able to get the freedom to add character to my look. But when I do these events and I do these corporate works, they don't want an image that is full of grain. They don't want a vintage look. They don't want an anamorphic look. These corporate jobs and these events, they want razor sharp. They want clinically sharp. They don't really care for any of that. And I think for me to be able to buy the Dizos, and I know I've seen videos at like a T2.1 when they're wide open, they're very soft. And I feel like for me, my clients, that's just not a look that they would want. And the Athenas, they look really, really sharp. And a lot of comparison videos that I see, people are saying that the Athenas are a lot better than the Dizos. So I'm kind of leaning towards more the Athenas only because at the end of the day, events, corporate work, that pays my bills. Spec ads, commercials, they're not paying my bills because I'm not getting a lot of jobs of those type yet. And so if I wanted to, even though the Athenas are a lot more sharper than the Diesel, I can just go in post-production and just ruin it by adding film grain and haze and whatever it is. So to answer your question, I'm sorry, but I don't know. I'm gonna get both lenses. So if you're interested, keep watching my channel, subscribe if you like, and I'm going to make a comparison between those two and I'll just let you know what I went with. Okay, so I think my last question is going to be what are the best settings to get cinematic footage? Um, I guess it's all about opinion. I can give you the settings that I use to get cinematic footage if you want to say. I primarily shoot in XAVC-I 4K. I shoot in S-Log3 for everything. S-Log3 is what's going to give you the most dynamic range. I believe the FX6 has 15 stops of dynamic range, so you're going to want to shoot in log, especially if you're going to color grade it yourself. And that's pretty much it. I shoot 4K, 24 frames per second, S-Log3, XAVC-I. Um, yeah, there's really else nothing to it. I guess how you want to get the cinematic footage just depends on you. It also depends on your lens choices. Your lens do play a big role and just how you frame things, how you align things, how you light things, those are really what's going to determine your cinematic look that you're going for. Because again, you can pretty much get the same image out of the FX3 or the A7S3. It's pretty much all the same. It just depends on you. I guess if you want to say really cinematic, lighting is everything. You can make a bad scene and light it really well, and you can use an 8-bit camera and it's gonna look good. But to be straightforward and answer your question, those are my settings. There's nothing too crazy. Oh, also I forgot, if it matters, I use shutter angle. I have it set to 180 degrees. Yeah, if that matters. Wow, these are all really good questions, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And before this video ends, if you haven't heard already, I announced it. I'm going to have an Orlando filmmaker meetup December 9th. If you are in the Orlando area or nearby surrounding areas, I highly recommend that you come out. It's going to be at 12 p.m. This is something that I've been thinking about doing, but haven't been too sure if I wanted to do it. But now it's set, it's done, it's good to go. People have been asking me to meet up. People have been asking me to talk with them. So I figured why not we all just come and meet up together. I don't know how many times I'm going to be doing this. I don't know if this is going to be a one and only time thing. It probably just depends on how well this turns out and just everyone's availability, my availability. But yeah, I'm excited. December 9th, 12 p.m. If you're in Orlando, if you're in Tampa, if you're in Jacksonville, even if you're in Miami, if you want to take the 4.5 hour drive from Miami to come, I recommend you come. It's going to be fun. We're going to laugh, kick it, chill, learn new things, meet new people. Yeah, it should be a really fun time. I encourage you to come out. Without further ado, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'm going to see you in the next video. I'll be on to. Buongiorno.